everybody, it's Alexa, and this is my second yoga tip video for beginners. So I first looked at a very difficult position and talked about how it's important to use your core strength to get there rather than throwing yourself into the position. And that's a general problem beginners often have with yoga, is throwing themselves into difficult positions and finding that they may injure themselves or they may get frustrated. They may compare themselves to somebody else who's very flexible, whose body is built in a very different way than theirs is. And the tip that I have is, again, going back to the wonderful teachers that I had starting out about 15 years ago, I have to give credit to Amme Hill, who was the first teacher that I ever had. Nothing in yoga is accomplished without breath. So when you're just starting out with yoga and you are beginning to feel frustrated because you can't get into a certain difficult position, understand that you aren't doing yoga if you aren't breathing. And so that's why I wanted to talk about the breath as beginner tip number 2. Everything in yoga revolves around breathing. And when you get into any pose, the key is not whether your body can be sort of manipulated into that pose, but rather, can you breathe while attempting or approximating that particular pose? So the kind of breath that yoga uses, actually there are many types of breath that yoga uses, and they're all wonderful for mindfulness training, and wonderful for releasing stress, and wonderful for clearing us out. And part of the thing about having techniques around breath is that they make us focus on the breath without thinking about focusing on the breath, because we're just trying to do the particular technique. So the technique that I learned many years ago was called Ujjayi breath. And sometimes when I'm in yoga classes, I feel like people are embarrassed to make these types of sounds. But the Ujjayi breath is quite simple. It's simply a breath, the sound of your breath being constricted in your throat. So it's simply the sound of your breath coming into your belly, your chest expanding, and then it coming back out through a constricted upper throat, as if you were trying to pull up your larynx a little bit and close the top of your throat up. But it's not the sound of your breath being forced out of your nose. So it's literally coming out of your throat. And one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to develop an automatic association of that breath with your downward dog. That's what's happened for me. And again, a lot of times I don't see people doing this. So again, I don't know if it was a quirk of my first teacher, but I've always continued with this, and I find that when I'm in a class and I'm breathing using Ujjayi breath, which is quite loud, or not quite loud, but louder than regular breathing, it gets other people breathing, and that's part of the whole point, is for us to all to let our breath out, to feel that flow of life. So pranayama, it literally just means the control of the breath, the life force energy. So with that said, let's get into a downward dog, and I'll show you what I mean. So my normal downward dog sequence would be to follow a regular vinyasa. So let's do that. So let's do our first vinyasa, and I'll show you how we get into a downward dog, and then we use Ujjayi breath. Start in mountain pose with your feet directly below your hips, your pelvis tilted slightly forward, certainly not tilted back, but basically neutral. Your buttocks relaxing into the tops of your thighs. Your shoulder blades slightly back. Your chest open. Your arms relaxed. Your neck centered over your collarbones. Your chin neither too high nor too low. And your gaze softly relaxed and forward. Feel the 4 corners of your feet. Feel how your toes support and inform your body as to where it stands in space. Feel how all this happens, so many systems interconnected without you telling them. what to do. From this position, arms together, reach up to the sky, stretch, stretch, breathing in, and on your exhale, swan dive down to your feet. Come forward a little bit on your feet, balance. Don't force it. Come up halfway, just flatten your back. Now back down. And from here, we're going to jump back into a plank. My little tip that I do is I throw in a little strength move right here, and I do an extra push-up or two. Then we drop down and come up to our first up dog. Relax the buttocks. You can also do from this, come down and then do a cobra, pulling your chest through your arms. But we'll do a up dog. And then from here, come back into your first downward dog. And feel that Ujjayi breath, also called warrior breath or victorious breath. In and out through your nose. Feel how it warms your body up. How it allows you to concentrate on the pose and relax into it. From here, on our next inhale, we hop, walk, or jump to our hands. And then come all the way back up to a standing position. Put our hands together. And bring them to our chest. So there you have it. That's your first vinyasa. Since I'm sharing some of the things that I learned from my first teacher, who really influenced me a lot, I thought I would share something that I think is so apt at this time of year when we're trying to reduce stress and start anew, refresh. Stress is, I believe, a natural state. Without stress, we would not grow. So stress is not, in fact, bad for us, only how we consider it. And along with stress, there are other traumas that happen in life. And there's a poem written by Rumi that speaks perfectly to what happens when we go through the difficulties, the vagaries of life. It's called The Guest House. So you might want to find a comfortable lying down position. You might want to support your knees. Feel your breath coursing through your body. And listen to the words of Rumi from thousands of years ago. The guest house. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Namaste.